This ain't no game. Swing the remix guard.
Good evening, everybody. Bill Pepitone, Conservative Party candidate for Mayor of New York City. Annette, I've said this many times before, upon my election, I will certainly put together an investigation of where the $850 million up to $1 billion of taxpayer money went regarding Thrive NYC, or the mayor's co-mayor, Mrs. Mayor, was in charge of, and just walked away from about $900 million with no results, no accountability. The comptroller looked the other way, city council shrugged their shoulders, and they walked away with $900 million. Who knows where it is? They will be held accountable once they are out of office, and I am in office. We will find that money, and those who are responsible will be held accountable. And we will push this as far as we possibly can to make sure that money is put back into the city coffers and goes back into New York City, and those responsible will be punished. One more opinion on the treatment of healthcare workers being let go due to vaccine after all they've done, of course. Tommy, just like our teachers and everyone else I've stood up for since 2020, what's happened to our healthcare workers after the incredible job they did throughout the beginning of the pandemic, to be hit with an ultimatum that they have to take the vaccine or lose their jobs, and many have lost their jobs, was an absolute disgrace. It goes to show you what an absolute joke that ticker tape parade is that the mayor threw. And I called it that back then. This is not hindsight's 2020. I called it that day. I said that was nothing more than Bill de Blasio patting himself on the back and throwing himself a parade. He didn't care about the essential workers. He didn't care about the healthcare workers. He didn't care about anyone on the front lines. He didn't care about the police. He didn't care about EMTs. He didn't care about firefighters. He didn't care about anyone. That was a ticker tape parade for himself. And that turned out to be true because what did they do? They turned around and told healthcare workers, if you don't comply, you lose your job. And they took jobs away. And they took livelihoods away. That will not happen with me as mayor. Mordecai, can I elaborate on my views of residences being built without anything being done in regards to hospitals, schools, and police, fire in the community? Yes, Mordecai, I actually spoke in the Bronx recently about what you're talking about, and that's upzoning. We have too many instances throughout our city where they're just putting up these large buildings, multi-use buildings, and residences, and large class structures everywhere without first looking at the infrastructure of the community. And that means hospitals, schools, police, exactly what you're talking about, Mordecai. And I know that's going on in Far Rockaway as well. But I did speak in the Bronx, and I'm actually speaking this Saturday in the Bronx as well, in another part of the Bronx where they're having the same issues. Bill de Blasio has caved to developers. Eric Adams, the developers he's already in the developers' pocket, so this is going to continue if Eric Adams wins. Your neighborhoods, your communities, the little neighborhoods that I grew up in Gravesend section of Brooklyn, the communities that you live in, you're going to have these multi-use buildings, these huge structures dropped right in the middle of your community. And what does that do? Well, as a police officer, I can tell you it's going to lead to more crime. It's going to lead to more homelessness, besides the fact that it's an absolute eyesore that changes the very fabric of the community you live in and the homes you own. It changes everything. So I'm against that. I will stop that. And the number one reason why I'll be able to stop that is I am not in the pockets of the developers. Eric Adams is. Remember that. Great question, Janine. If I win, how will I confront Hochul with the mandates, masking, vax? Well, clearly the governor and myself have different views. She is pro-mandate, she is pro-mask, she is pro-vaccination, and of course I am for freedom of medical choice. The governor will find out quickly that I am not Bill de Blasio, that I will not roll over and die and play dead for the governor like Bill de Blasio did for Governor Cuomo. I will fight for New York City residents. I will fight for our rights. I will fight for our freedoms. And I will make it very, very clear. Without New York City, there is no New York State. New York State's financial health and the overall health of this entire state is fueled by the city of New York. So she needs to play ball as well, and she will find out that there is not a Bill de Blasio in City Hall anymore. I'm in person. Mordecai, can I elaborate on my accomplishments beyond the NYPD? I certainly can, Mordecai. Beyond the NYPD, again, where I was a police officer assigned to a citywide mobile task force, the Brooklyn South Task Force. I was a tactics instructor in the police academy and a training coordinator within the training division in the police academy. But beyond that, upon my retirement, and I've told this story many, many times, my young daughter was diagnosed at 22 months with autism. And this is why education and special needs is so important to me and my family. At the time, I was retiring, and I spoke to people about the public education system, what they could do for my special needs daughter, and everybody told me that the special needs programs in the city, in our public education system, were an absolute nightmare, and that the best thing I could do for my daughter is to take her somewhere else. So we looked into New Jersey, we looked into Pennsylvania, and by all matters, everything pointed towards Pennsylvania and a great public education system and special needs programs in Pennsylvania. So for my daughter, for my 22-month-old daughter, upon my retirement, we moved out to Bucks County, Lower Bucks County in Pennsylvania. It was a difficult move, one I had a lot of struggles with, leaving my family, leaving my city, my home. It turned out to be the right decision because the public school education system, their special needs programs were amazing. We had a one-on-one in school for her. We had 3 therapists a day coming to the house. I can tell you right now, she's an amazing 14-year-old girl, high-functioning, just a spectacular young lady. And I owe it all to the special needs programs in Pennsylvania. That is why I keep saying our special needs programs in New York City will be the gold standard when I am mayor, because I know exactly what it takes and I know exactly what we're lacking. And, you know, people have criticized me for that move, but there was a report in the Daily News recently that I believe completely vindicated me and explained exactly why I left. New York City has been out of compliance in their special needs programs for 13 years. It takes us exactly back to when I had to leave the city. I was forced to leave my home to do what I had to for my daughter. And so many other people have been put in that position where they had to leave New York City, their homes, their families, because the public education system failed them and the special needs programs failed them. 13 years out of compliance. So I made the right move. I came back to New York City upon my divorce. It was a difficult time. In difficult times, what do? We reach back for something familiar. I came back to New York City and I made the right move. It was the right move for me. And I'm glad I'm back. But as far as my accomplishments, what I was getting to is while I was out in Pennsylvania, I decided to get involved in the community using my police background and my experience dealing with people. I ran for mayor as a write-in candidate with 6 weeks to go in an election because I saw how the local police department was being completely mismanaged and the borough council was having a difficult time with certain members on there. And I ran for mayor as a write-in candidate, and in 6 weeks, I finished second to the Democrat incumbent and defeated the Republican who was on the ballot. This is as a write-in candidate. As a write-in candidate with 6 weeks to go, I beat the Republican on the ballot and almost defeated the Democrat, the incumbent Democrat. I used that to become Rotary Club president for 2 terms. I was a part of the, besides the Rotary Club, there were several other community organizations where I was on the board. And I then turned around and ran for borough council, and I won in a landslide over a Democratic incumbent, and who was a 25-year incumbent, and I won in a landslide, and I was a borough councilman for 2 years. I served on committees such as the Small Business Committee, the Economic Development Committee, the School Board Joint Council Committee, and the Emergency Services Committee for 2 years. I was also a Bucks County committee person for 2 terms, which was for 4 years. So I have experience in the political arena. I've been involved in politics. I've been involved in legislation. I've been involved in decision-making. I've been involved in decision-making for our schools and for our children. So I have that political background. I have that leadership background, of course, certainly. And I won community awards for my involvement, community involvement awards. The Morrisville Police Department gave me an award. We raised, under my leadership, we raised enough money to buy all new ballistic vests for the entire Morrisville Borough Police Department, which was probably one of my greatest achievements, because the police department was just completely ignored for years by their leadership. They got new leadership in. We teamed up with their leadership and got all new ballistic vests for that police department. So again, I do have political experience. I have leadership experience. I have community experience. And most importantly, I had to make a decision for my daughter and for my family. I made it a tough one. It was the right one. And I'm back in New York City. So everybody's happy. My daughter's doing great, and I'm back here. So I hope that answers your questions, Mordecai. People are still asking. I will say it again. I will say it until November 2nd. I will say it until November 3rd, and I will say it well beyond Election Day. I stand against all COVID vaccine mandates. As mayor, as your mayor of New York City, I will get rid of, repeal, take away all COVID-related mandates. There will be no COVID vaccination mandate. You will not have to get vaccinated to work in New York City. You will not have to be vaccinated to go out and enjoy freedom here in New York City. This is still the United States of America, last I checked. You will not have to wear a mask. You will not have to strap a mask to your face, and you certainly won't have to strap a mask to your child's face for 8 hours a day in school. We will take that away. You will not have to present a vaccination card, present your papers, just to go into a restaurant or a gym or a bar or a venue to watch a sporting event, Madison Square Garden, Yankee Stadium, whatever it may be. You're not going to have to show your papers anymore. That is where I stand. I've been fighting against it since 2020. My message has been clear. It's been consistent. I have not changed one iota in where I stand. Often because of their policies. I am not anti-vax. I am not a conspiracy theorist. If you want to be vaccinated, by all means, you should be. If you want to wear a mask, by all means, you should. If you want your children to be vaccinated as a parent, that's your decision. A decision that should be made between you and your doctor. That's your decision. If you want to carry a vaccination card and show it wherever you go, that's fine. You can do it. But if you don't comply, if you don't want to comply, if you're concerned about what is going into your body, you should have the right to say no. That's what we're saying. We're not anti-vax. We're pro-freedom of medical choice. That's where I stand. And again, that hasn't changed since 2020, and it will not change. He has no conservative values. Animal welfare is a very, very important part of my campaign and an important part of my life. I've said this many times. I've had German Shepherds throughout my life since I was probably about 5 years old. I lost my 10-year-old German Shepherd 2 years ago, Rambo, a 125-pound German Shepherd, and the best friend anybody can have. And it was the worst day of my life, I can tell you that. We recently rescued a cat, a little kitten, who's around here somewhere. Probably will be jumping on the tables at some point. I don't have 15 cats. I have one. But I love animals. My family has always loved animals. The mistreatment of the animals that's taking place in our shelters is abominable. Some of the pictures I've seen, some of the emails I've received, especially on Twitter. A lot of people have reached out to me on Twitter on it, and I've made it very clear on Twitter and on Facebook that as mayor, there will be no-kill shelters in the city. This will be a no-kill shelter city. We will not allow it. We will stop it. We will do everything we can to find them forever homes and to treat our animals and our friends the way we should treat them. What's going on in those shelters is abominable. But that is, animal welfare is such a huge part of this campaign, a huge part of my life. There is no bigger animal lover in the world, but we will protect our animals. We will end the killing in our shelters.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
Hey! 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 This ain't okay! Sway the weed makes God!
Hello, fellow New Yorkers and my fellow Americans in this great city of New York, the Empire State, greatest nation in the world. Bill Pepitone is running for New York City mayor, and the mainstream media has done a superb job of hiding that. And that's well known. He will, in fact, fight the lawlessness that we have, this wild, wild west of rampant crime, whether it's felonies or misdemeanors. Bill Pepitone is the man to do it. Why? 3 reasons. Number 1, born and raised red-blooded American and New Yorker. Number 2, former police officer, very decorated. He was a 9/11 first responder. And number 3, he's been there since day one, since the pandemic started 18 months ago. Every protest, every rally, showing up with the people. I've seen him at all boroughs, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx. He's been there. I've seen him. Check out his record on law enforcement. He's a very kind-hearted man, a father who has child, cares about the teachers, the educators, and cares about all New Yorkers and its tax-paying citizens, regardless of their skin color or ethnic background. So please consider voting for Bill Pepitone. God bless you. God bless the great city of New York. Long live the Empire State, and God bless America.
Test, test, test. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Recording in progress. Waiting for Mr. Bill Pepitone. Okay, recording in progress. Make sure everything is good. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. Just to let you know, we're already recording.
Okay.
I am DJ Brenda Black. Thank you so much for joining me. I think that you're a great candidate, and I think that you haven't gotten enough exposure. But where people have said, and I've heard other people say this, to be honest, that you don't have enough name recognition to win. But I've been asking people, who are you voting for? And they don't know anybody. I think that with everything that's happening in the nation and with COVID, people are kind of out of it. I've seen before where it's almost like people don't want to pay attention because everything's overwhelming.
Yes. I don't disagree. There's been so much bad news over the past year and a half that people just want it to go away and just want to hide and hope that everything turns out better tomorrow. But unless we get to the voters booth on November 2nd, things are not only going to stay the same, they're going to get worse. We have to stand up and take back our city right now. And the only way to do that is at the voting booths. We can't endure another 4 years of Bill de Blasio failed policies. And that's what the Democratic candidate is going to bring to New York City. The Republican candidate has a lot of views that I vehemently disagree with, and I don't think are good for New York City. So
Can you expand on that?
Of course. As far as the Democratic candidate, the one thing that concerns me is his failure to stand up for New Yorkers in the summer of 2020, when there was so much violence and riots in our streets, and he did nothing. I mean, our police officers were being attacked on a daily and nightly basis, and he said nothing. And this is a retired police officer who did not defend the police and did not defend law-abiding citizens. He's also the borough president of Brooklyn, which is the most violent borough in the entire city. So if he can't keep Brooklyn safe, how is he going to keep all of New York City safe?
And, I encourage everyone who's watching this to, of course, do your own research, make your own decisions. But I have to say that I agree with that. And also, I don't like these candidates who are already in positions and then saying government's so bad when the places they govern, they're not doing anything. Now, maybe you could say what's different about your policies with Curtis.
Well, the policies with Curtis that have differed are because Curtis has gone in a different direction over the past couple of months. His support of universal basic income, which is basically handing people money to stay home, I disagree with. I think that's the path to socialism. And I think that's a path that we're seeing too often across this country. That's not the direction we want New York City to go in. We want to put people back to work, give them incentive to go back to work and get the city's economy moving. Handing people thousands of dollars to stay home is not the answer. He has come out and publicly supported Andrew Yang's policies. Andrew Yang leans towards socialism, and Andrew Yang's policies were soundly defeated in the primary here in June. New Yorkers didn't want any part of Andrew Yang's policies, but Curtis Sliwa has come out and said he endorses many of Yang's policies. That's scary. That's very scary to me. And also, as the Republican candidate, he's come out and said he's not the typical Republican. I'm not sure he really knows what a typical Republican is because he hasn't been a Republican. He's run the Reform Party, his socialist views lately. Again, they're frightening. And the biggest difference between Curtis and I, we both stand for public safety. We know how important that is to our city, to our city's economy, to our education, so kids can go to school safely. Ultimately, I have professional law enforcement experience, 20 years with the NYPD, a tactics instructor, a training coordinator, over 30 years of public safety, law enforcement, and private security experience. He does not have such.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I would say, you know, what would you just explain some things that make you different from the other two candidates and why you think you would be a better candidate? For somebody who is on the fence and they're not sure if they're leaning towards not Eric Adams, between you and Curtis, tell us again, like why do you think they should vote for you over him? I mean, you just said two things, but as far as, I'm not sure how to phrase this, because I do like Curtis, but I do feel that you are the more consistent candidate with your views. And that's important to me. I think it's important if you get new information that you change your mind. If you get new information that changes things, I think that's okay.
Of course.
And also really important, the vaccine mandates. I think that it should be a choice. And you say that the vaccine mandates, you will eliminate them.
Yes.
When you're in office.
Yes.
Now, can you even do that?
Yes.
So you have the power.
Yes. If the mayor can implement mandates, he can certainly repeal the mandates. And that, along with our public safety and law enforcement experience, the difference between Curtis and I is since the fall of 2020, I have been out against the mandates. I've stood with our teachers, our healthcare workers at numerous rallies in Manhattan, in Staten Island, in Brooklyn, and my message has always been the same. As you said, I've been consistent. As mayor, I will repeal all the COVID mandates that are costing people their jobs, their livelihoods, their homes. It's a disgrace, and it's destroying New York, and it's destroying people's lives. If I am not an anti-vaxxer, if you want to get the vaccine, if you want to wear a mask, if you want to carry a vaccine card to get into indoor activities, by all means, you should do so. I agree with that. But if you don't, you should have the choice of what goes in your body. And I have stood strongly against that, and I don't know where the Republican stands.
I also, now for a Democratic voter, why do you think a Democrat should switch over and vote for you?
That's an easy one. We've had 8 years of Democratic policies here in New York City, and where are we? Our city is as unsafe as it was in the late 80s and early 90s. Violence is everywhere. Shootings are everywhere. Tourism is way down. Now, you can blame COVID, but you could also blame public safety and crime on our streets. Look at Times Square. How many shootings have we had in Times Square? COVID didn't cause those shootings. Bad people with guns caused those shootings, and bad Democratic policies caused those shootings. If we continue down the same course, we're going to have 4 more years of failed Democratic policies, failed Bill de Blasio policies, because Eric Adams has said he follows many of the directions that Bill de Blasio has put in place. He has asked Bill de Blasio for advice and has even mentioned keeping Bill de Blasio on his staff as an advisor. So if you vote Democrat in this election, you're getting 4 more years of Bill de Blasio, if not worse.
Speaking of asking someone as an advisor, this is something I wanted to ask you, and I would love to ask all the candidates, and I don't know why it's not done. If, as mayor, would you consult with Curtis? Would you consult with Eric? Would you speak with them? Would you have any kind of, more in particular, say Curtis, he has a popularity. Would you work with him as mayor?
First of all, I'd be willing to work with anyone not named de Blasio. Bill de Blasio will not be a part of my administration. I don't want him anywhere near City Hall. But I'd be willing to work with anybody who legitimately cares about New York City. If you care about New York City, if you care about the people of New York City, my door is open. I'd love to sit down and talk with anyone who wants real solutions and real answers for every community here in the city. I have an open door policy. I will have an open door policy. anyone who cares about New York City is welcome to sit down with me, exchange ideas, and do what's best for New York.
As mayor, I know the city council is supposed to check on the mayor, but as mayor, what would you do to help the relationship between the city council and the constituents? Because right now, I think it's really bad.
Yeah, of course, it's very bad. And you know what? That goes across all lines, from local government to federal government. We have so many elected officials who forget who put them in office and who they represent. I mean, we had a president stand in the White House not too long ago, a few weeks ago, and condemn Americans that didn't want to get the vaccine. He actually stood in the White House and said, I'm growing tired of you. He's growing tired of us, law-abiding Americans. That's ridiculous. But that's the attitude many of our elected officials have, especially when they continue to be reelected. As mayor, how can I change that? You lead by example. If I show that I'm open to listening to New Yorkers and talking to citizens and getting out there and listening to their problems and making changes according to what our citizens need, then maybe that sets an example that the city council should follow. But ultimately, we have to change the city council. It's so one-sided. There is no balance. And like I said, they continue to get reelected. So there's no reason for them to listen to the people. They know they're just going to get their same voter base, and they're going to get reelected. It'll be in their chair again in 2 years or 4 years, whatever it may be. The only way we can change that, again, we have to go out and vote them out, and put good people in there who actually listen. And it doesn't have to be a Democrat, it doesn't have to be a Republican. I don't care if you're liberal, conservative. We just need public officials who are willing to listen to the public all across the board, local to federal.
I agree. And just, I just want to say that I don't think every city council member is bad. I think, but that said, there does seem to be a certain disregard for the constituents when they reach out.
There are some great people on our city council who really care about New York. It's a select few who have a very loud voice, and those are the few that we need to replace.
And also, I would like to say, I think some of those people, their head gets turned. They may have come into the job with good intentions. They're meaning to do well, but they're getting distracted by negative forces and negative influences, and they're not doing the right thing. I don't want to keep you too long. I just want to say, whatever you want to say, just talk to, and I would also like to say to everyone watching, please go to Bill's website. Do you want to say the website?
Sure. My website is pepitone.nyc.com. My vision for New York City is on there. That's the perfect place to find out more about me.
And you could go to his Facebook. You could go to his Twitter. Yes. I would say that some of you may be watching this before November 1st. Some of you are watching this on November 1st. Go and vote tomorrow. Go vote early. I think that it's very important. So now I'm going to give you the floor and say whatever you want to say to New Yorkers.
Thank you. November 2nd, we have the opportunity to determine the future of our city, determine the future of New York City. It is the most important mayoral election in our generation's history. It is about public safety. It is about whether or not we want our children to be safe on our streets, if we want to be safe on our subways, in our schools, if we want to bring back an economy that used to be one of the greatest in the nation. We were the financial capital of the world at one point, but that's slipping away. Do we want to fix that and return to that status? Do we want our freedoms to be taken away every single day? If you want to take a stand against all of that, against crime, against the loss of our rights, for our children in our schools, to a legitimate education system where we have a fair grading system and our children are given goals that they should strive for. If you want all of that, if you want what New York City used to be, then we have to stop voting the same way. I am not a career politician. I am not tied to the political elite. I was a New York City police officer for 20 years, a 9/11 first responder. I care about this city. I love this city, and I can change this city. We have good people on our team, but ultimately it comes down to you. What you do on November 2nd. This is the most important election of our lifetime here in New York City, and you have an opportunity to determine it. So please, when you go to the polls on November 2nd, vote for Bill Pepitone and vote for change and the future of New York City.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and all that you do. I'm sure you have a busy day. You look fabulous, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.
Deeply, though, really, honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And God bless you. God bless your family. God bless New York, and God bless America.
I agree on all counts. God bless. Take care.
Hey. Hey.
It's one thing to have law enforcement experience and to come from a family that has a military background. And it's another thing to know what it is to lead with a wise mind and a wise heart. That's what our city needs right now. We need to get out of the medical gulags that we've been engulfed in now for 2 years. It's time to vote for Bill Pepitone for mayor. He'll get us out of this mess. We need to make this an election that we're going to remember for generations to come. Vote Bill Pepitone on November 2nd.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Pepitone. I am the Conservative Party candidate for Mayor of New York City, and we are coming to you on Facebook live from our studios here in Staten Island, New York. A lot to talk about tonight. I see Joanne wants some good news. We'll try to find some good news. First, we got to go through the bad news. So let me say hello to a few people first. Those of you who have joined us this evening, thank you for joining us. Carol, hello. Kathy, hello. Christine, hello. Margie, hello. Faina, hello. If I get your name wrong, please just correct me. Marie, hello. Joe, hello. Joe Funhouse, hello. Maritza, hello. Teresa, hello. Desiree, hello. Claire, hello. Ken, my friend, how are you? Hello. Rosemary, my mother, hello. Hello, Mom, for all you do. Margie, hello. Hello to everybody who's joining us. Again, I'm going to touch on a couple of topics very quickly because, as I said, we're only going to go till 8 o'clock, and I do want to get to your questions and your comments. Some of the things that jump off the table right now, as you know, we've been doing these Facebook Lives since 2020. One thing I've tried to stay away from is talking about the other candidates, the other two major candidates, but that's out the window right now because Eric Adams, the Democratic candidate, had himself quite a week. That there was a report that he supports a cyber wallet. That New York City would use a cyber wallet. Instead of you getting a paycheck from the City of New York, if you're a City of New York employee, New York City would have a cyber wallet where it controls the money, where it sees the money that goes into your account, sees your account, it sees your spending habits, it sees what you're spending your money on. And as he said, he wants to modify your behavior. And if you're spending money on stuff that he doesn't agree is healthy or he doesn't like, they're going to try and modify your behavior, your spending behavior. What the hell does that sound like? If we don't open our eyes now, if we still believe this is not a socialist movement, if we still believe this is not all about government control, then we are screwed beyond belief as we go into 2022. We have to open our eyes. It's happening every single day. From the mandates to cyber wallets to every bit of control this government is trying to take. Bill de Blasio, somebody's name who I hate to bring up because to me he's completely irrelevant, but he continues to do damage to the city of New York. The mayor today said he has an issue with the police department's customer service. So the NYPD is all about customer service. And he's hiring people to be greeters at the doors of precincts and commands across the city so they can be nicer and gentler and more accommodating to the people of the public. Now, let's be honest. Courtesy and professionalism is obviously a priority with any police department, especially here in the city of New York. And 99.9% of our police officers are courteous and respectful and professional. If this is his priority while people are being shot in the street and attacked on the subways and crime is skyrocketing again and the city looks like a mess, his priority is that the NYPD has to improve their customer service. This is where his head is. This is where it's been for 8 years. This is nothing new, but this is his priority. This is why January can't come fast enough and why we can't have Eric Adams in City Hall, because he will just continue this mess and continue to destroy what's left of the New York City Police Department. Tells you all you need to know. Going down the headlines a little more, again, the mandates. The mandates. We saw state healthcare workers start to lose their jobs this week. And as of right now, Monday is the deadline for New York City teachers. I have spoken to so many teachers over the past few weeks, especially in recent days, As you know, I've been to as many rallies as I possibly can get to support our teachers, our healthcare workers, all our city workers, police officers, firefighters, everyone who has been mandated, but especially our teachers whose deadline is Monday, and our healthcare workers. And this mayor, all the way to the White House with the president, they're standing by these mandates. The courts have not stepped up and done their job to protect Americans and to protect their rights. They have failed tonight. That's why I will be attending every single rally I can get to. We have to. We cannot give up. We have to continue to fight. As I've said before 100 times, and I will say it again, as mayor, I will remove all the COVID mandates. There will be no vaccination mandate here in the city of New York. There will be no mask mandate here in the city of New York, and you will never have to carry a vaccination card or a vaccine passport with you to go into a restaurant, a bar, a gym, or anywhere. That will end, and I am the only mayoral candidate that has stood before you and has promised to do such. The other two, well, Joanne, what about our kids? If you're talking about our mandates, we know that's coming. We know that's coming. We saw the report last week where Pfizer is looking for approval for a vaccine for 5-year-olds from 5 to 12. We know 12 to 16 has already been approved for it. They're coming after our kids. Now, again, let me say this to be clear, because this came up in the debate yesterday, and my stance against the mandates wasn't very popular. But the bottom line is I am not anti-vax, and I am not a conspiracy theorist. I believe in freedom of choice, freedom of medical choice. If you want to get this vaccine, or any of the vaccines, by all means, it's America, you absolutely should. Absolutely. But if you don't, if you do not want them sticking this vaccine in your body or your children's body, then you should have the right to say no. This is America, and we have rights, and that's where I stand. Short-term effects are, we know people who have been fully vaccinated are still getting COVID. And then we have politicians telling us that the unvaccinated are threatening the vaccinated, that we have to protect the vaccinated. Shouldn't the vaccine protect the vaccinated? Why are they worried about the unvaccinated if they've been vaccinated? It makes no sense. It's double talk. It's politics. That's all it is. You mean nothing. Eileen, DOE employee and mother of public school children. Chancellor appointed by this clown will bring more educational disparities. Of course. Absolutely. Any chancellor that Eric Adams puts in office is going to double down on critical race theory and radical social agendas, because that's who Eric Adams is. And if you think the public education system is bad now, wait till you see what happens under a Mayor Adams. We cannot let him get into City Hall. How can we empower the city sheriffs? The problem, Kevin, with that is that the sheriffs answer to the governor, as we saw during the lockdowns last year. We know where the governor stands on mandates. I actually saw a report last week where the new governor, Governor Hochul, said that the vaccine is a gift from God and that God wants us to be vaccinated. Now we have elected officials telling us what God wants us to do. So they're taking our religious beliefs away and telling us what God wants us to do. Yes, that people have a God complex, and that is absolutely ridiculous. So many say I don't stand a chance, that I am not known enough. Diane, I'm going to address that right now. When the fractured Republican Party endorsed two different candidates, two wrong candidates, they started to spread rumors that I had dropped out of the race, that nobody knows me, that I'm an unknown, that I can't do this and I can't do that, and they told people for quite a while that I wasn't even in the race anymore. It was all lies. Obviously, I'm still here. I'm on the ballot on November 2nd, and I will be there on November 2nd. Do not listen to the people who tell you that nobody knows me. Last week in Times Square, I spoke before 3,000 people. 3,000 people speaking out against mandates. People in New York City, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, progressives, socialists, Trump lovers, Trump haters, didn't matter. Over 3,000 people in Manhattan were chanting my name in support of my stance on the mandates. I've been to City Hall where people have chanted my names because I support the mandates. We've been to every borough in the city, almost every community in this city. People know who I am. Do not believe everything you see on Facebook. The people who are putting out there that nobody knows who I am, nobody's ever heard of me, quite frankly, are the people who do not want me to win, who do not want me to upset the political establishment and embarrass the Republican leadership who picked the wrong candidate. that's poll workers are going to be so important for this election. We need volunteers for poll workers. You go through a quick little training course. They teach you what to look for. We are going to pay very special attention to this election. We will have our poll watchers in place. We will have lines of communication open. If you see something, say something, and we will certainly react to it. So by all means, anyone who wants to volunteer for our campaign and to help us on election day, because we're going to need a lot of volunteers across this city on election day, handing out pamphlets, talking to people, and poll watchers as well. So if you want to volunteer, teampepitone2021@gmail.com. I've been sharing all your posts on Facebook and spreading the word. Come across many people that say they haven't heard of me. Well, again, like I said, people have to be informed. We've done everything we can to get the word out. Mainstream media, as you know, has refused to cover us. Local media has refused to cover us. Once the primaries hit, they basically blacked out our campaign, and that's fine. We're working hard on the ground. We're getting the word out. We need you to spread the word, and just stop listening to the rumors. Stop listening to people who say, well, he has no chance because nobody's heard of him, because that's simply not true. I did see a quick question go by that said, and this is a great point, I was going to bring this up. When I am elected, the question said if, but I'm going to go with when. When I am elected, would I rehire all those who were fired because of this mandate? The answer is yes. Anyone who lost their job because of the mandates that this mayor put in place, I will rehire when I am the mayor of New York City. You can print this out, you can screenshot it, you can put it wherever you like. Let me make it clear once again. When I am the mayor of New York City, anyone who lost their job to these mandates will be rehired. Healthcare workers, or teachers, essential workers, I will rehire them. I will find a way to find that money, because we have that money, including $900 million that this mayor and his wife took, which we are going to find. We're going to investigate it, and we're going to find that money. I will rehire anyone who loses their job to the mandates. Sure, Diane? Brenda, may I play a clip of this on the Manhattan Neighborhood Network? Absolutely, of course. And that's the MNN, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, is actually showing the Gotham Gazette debate.